Okay. All right, this is Algebra 1, Module 4, Lesson 20, Stretching and Shrinking Graphs of Functions. Now we're doing the same thing in Algebra 2, but we're doing functions of logarithms and exponential functions. They're a little bit more complicated, but it's all the same thing. So you need to understand this now because you're going to be doing this through Algebra 2 and everything. So number 1 says, how would the graph of f of x equal the square root of x be affected if it were changed to g of x is equal to a negative 2 square roots of x? Now, you need to think about f of x as your parent function. Okay, that's your parent function. What is it changing to is a negative 2 square roots of x. Okay, so the square root of x is not changing. It's staying the same. Except we're changing it by a factor in g of x of a factor of negative 2. Okay, so what you need to think about that as far as how does that affect us, or how does that affect the graph? What is going on when we have a negative 2 in front of our parent function? Okay, that's our only difference, is that negative 2. The negative is going to reflect the whole graph over the x-axis. So that negative reflects over the x. Let's say the x-axis. Okay. Now that 2 is going to be a vertical stretching, let's call it VS, of a factor of 2. It's a vertical stretching of 2. Okay. So that's how you're going to know what to do with your square root of x function. So if we just did a square root of x function, what's a square root of 1? Well, that's 1. Okay, 0, 0. We can't do anything past 0, right? It's not even actually going to touch 0, but it's going to get really close to it. So when x is 4, y is 2. Okay, so our graph is going to look something like, well, Mr. Ashton completely missed the dot there. It's going to look something like that. Half a parabola. Now, if you go to the second part, our g of x, so this is f of x. Okay. G of x, we said, is going to reflect and be a vertical stretch of a factor of 2. Okay. So basically, where 1 is 1, 1, this is going to be 1, negative 2. Okay. Where 4 was 2, 4 is going to be negative 4 now. So it has flipped over the x, and it's stretched by 2. So it's basically twice as big. Okay. The negative, anytime you see a negative, that's going to reflect it. Okay. If it's out front there. And then the 2 is a vertical stretch of 2. Now, on your assignments, you're going to have pretty much a parent function, and then you're going to just tweak a parent function by a little bit on each one. Okay? So, know what your parent function looks like. If it's a square root of x, what does the square root of x look like? If it's absolute value, what does the absolute value of x look like? Then think about what it's going to look like if you have a factor of 2 or a factor of 3, or if there's a negative in front of it. Okay? So, does